Hey everyone, it's Jonathan from Motor Psychology. Welcome to the channel. If you're new here, a special welcome, and if you're a returning viewer, welcome back, and thank you so much for your support. It's greatly appreciated. So in today's video, it's all going to be about putting in the power steering pump and also the lines to the power steering control valve, and then also hooking that up to the power steering cylinder. So it's all pretty straightforward, but you don't see this that often on YouTube. So I thought I'd put that in as part of the channel content. So stick around and let's see how it goes. Okay, we're finally back and it's time to get all this stuff hooked up and on the car. So here's some of the parts from before. These are the main bolts. Here is the mounting bracket, which I got to put on. And we have a bunch of lines. These are for the power steering cylinder. We'll put those on outside. And these ones here, which I've already shown in other videos, but this is the pressure hose. So this one has pressure on it, and that goes from the power steering pump into the power steering control valve. Same with this one. This one is a return line back into the power steering pump. So this end here goes on here, and this one goes into the power steering cylinder. So we'll get that done and installed here before we head outside. I want to show people this because I didn't see too many clear explanations of what's going on here. So this is the return line, and I'll be putting that on, and this is the pressure line. And right now there's a little plug in here to keep things clean in the pump, so that's pretty good. And we also got to get the bracket on. So this is kind of like what it looks like from this side for those of you who have never seen that before. So let me just get this thing organized to start installing it. So I like to set it up this way because I've got the support bracket going in here, and it's just easier for me to get a little bit of leverage on there. So let's try and do that. So this bracket here, just have a good look at it, how it's shaped. So looking down here, this cutout goes over this bolt here, this threaded side, and it should sit like that when it's on. So I'm going to try and get that on. I remember taking the old one off, how stiff it was, so I may need something to tap it back on with. So I just want to show you what I'm doing here. I'm going to hook this thing under here and also get it on that side. So let's give that a shot. I just used a couple 2x4s here to keep this thing off of the bench and give me a little bit of extra room here. So getting back to this again. So it's getting there, and I just wanted to show you that with a little bit of tapping, it'll get in place. And I want to bang this up. So it's gradually getting in place here, and that's the goal. A bit more tapping here. There we go. So that's popped in place, and the bracket is in place, ready to have the bolts go into it. So from a long time ago, we've got some hardware parts in here. Just going to pop those out. And this is going to stay together, these two, and I'm going to grab these two as well. So down here is where this small bolt goes with a lock washer, and it's just a matter of threading it in. And then I'm just going to lightly tighten it because this is going to have to move a little bit once it's installed. Okay, that's good enough. And onto the other side. Same thing. Going to take the nut and a lock washer and put it on this thing here. So I'll stick the washer on first and put on the nut. And once again, I'm not going to put it on too tight because it's going to have to be a little bit loose so that I can move this when I get this pump installed. That's good. So we have the mounting bracket on, and that's the first step. This orientation works pretty good. It's nice and solid there, and we'll be putting in the hoses in both these parts, and I just want to show you the angles that they go on so that you get it right the first time. So this is the pressure hose that goes to the power steering control valve, and this side here is what goes in here. So I'm going to take this out of the pack and I'll show you that. So we're going to unpack and stick on the power steering hose pressure, which is the pressure hose, and it goes in this port here. So let's get this one open and out of the bag. Finally. There we go. This is the item, and this side is the side that goes in. So first I can take this off. This is just a cap that was placed on at the factory that produced this thing. So we're ready to attach this thing in there, which is pretty straightforward. No O-ring required because it's a compression fit, so all works out pretty well. If you can get a wrench like this, which is specially designed for putting on fittings, that's perfect. So you can see here how this fits specifically in there, and it just prevents slipping. So we're looking at a 5/8 there, and it's going to go in here. So bringing this in here, the angle that you want is it coming out and then down towards you. So that is the right angle to put it in. And I'm just going to stick that in. And for now, I'm just going to hand tighten that. So you've got the hose here, which actually will bend this way when it's done, like that. And we're getting there. So now to put on the other hose, which goes in under here, or easier to see on this side here. So I'm going to do that. So now we're going to put on the hose on here, which is just a straight hose onto this thing, and then clamp it up. So hopefully I can get this end off. I'll lightly grab it with this guy here. There we go. Taking this one out, that's the return hose. And this thing is just going to go on like that. And it's just a matter of fitting it on there. Before I do that, I want to stick a clamp on. So I do have a multitude of clamps to pick, and I decided to use one of these press-on ones versus one of the worm types. So just going to find the right size and we'll install that. I'm going to use what they've identified as a number 15. It looks a little bit small, but once you pinch it open, you can do that. And I'm going to use a pair of pliers to do that. And they're specially made to do that. So it's really just one area's got kind of like a cup in it, and the other area's got a place to hold this guy here. So you just basically put them in like that and then press, and it opens it up. And then when you release, it puts it back down. So this one is going to fit, I believe, and I'm just going to open it and stick it on in for now. There's that guy in, and now I'm going to stick the hose on. If you want, you can put a little bit of lubrication in there. Some of your power steering fluid will usually work, and then just slide it on there. So I'm going to try and get this thing on. All right, a little bit of grip here. It's slow going to get down there, but you can see that it's already here. So a little bit more pushing should be good. There we go. That's as far as I want to put that one in. Doing this again. Give it a tighten. There we go. So these are in, and I just want to put the clamp on before I forget. So these special pliers for the clamps, they have a little mechanism on it that will keep it closed, and you don't have to hold it closed. That allows you to kind of like slide it up and get it in place. Just kind of put it in place here and then undo the pliers. And there you have your clamp on there. There's the clamp in place, and that thing in place as well. So we're getting there. So another thing, these ones come with a cap in place. They didn't come with the dipstick cap. This is the original cap, and I'll put that back in here once I get this installed on the Corvette. So the next step is to put this thing back on, and then we're good for the setup of this pump before it goes on the car. So we'll do that right now, and it attaches up here with this bolt here. So I'll just get this organized. So with this part here, you can almost see how it's going to go on like that. And that will go through here. These will stay on until the main bolts go through. In the meantime, there's a washer and a lock washer and a nut that goes on here. This one is the original, and this one is a new one. So I'm going to use a new one, and it should work fine. At least look nicer anyway. So sticking the new one on here, and then we have the lock washer, and then we've got the regular nut. I'm I'm just going to line this up as it was. That should be a good indication how everything should go back together. Just going to stick a screwdriver down here just to keep this in place. Perfect. Tighten this up a little. So there we all have it, kind of bench fitted for now, and the rest is going to be out on the Corvette. So we're going to go out there and start getting this thing installed back on the car. Here's the final setup here, and now we'll be heading out to the car to get this thing installed. I'm super glad that I kept this old one here. It's going to really help out a lot as far as getting the retract and the extend lines on here and looking how it's done. So the small one here is the extend, and that will go into the bottom of the power steering cylinder, and the retract, this one, comes up and around, and that goes into the top of the power steering cylinder. The other thing that I noticed was this original one has this kind of guard on it, which I like. So I'm going to dig around and get this one off and clean it up a little bit and install it on the new one. So this bolt here is a 9/16, so I'm going to try and get that off. I'm not too sure if it's actually going to happen. All right, this is in the vise now, and it should be easy to get these nuts loosened enough so I can get this plate off. There we go. There we go. Get that one out. Pull the washer off, and this should come out. Should. There we go. I don't think it's going to come out with these things in. All right, that's the plate that I'm looking for. I'm going to clean that up so I can put it on the new one. Might as well. That one's done. I got what I needed from that, so on to the thing outside. And wow. Here's that dust cover or little protection guard. Could be like a heat shield that came off this old one. I refreshed it and it looks good, and it'll be great to put on the new one, which it didn't come with that. So I'm glad I noticed that, and I'll put that on now. So here we are looking into the Corvette, and way down here around this area here is where I'm going to put the power steering pump in. To holes down there, that's where it screws into, and then I'll put the lines in down below right there. Moving this new pump into place here. And then it's just going to be a matter of lining it up. It's a long reach for me out here. Just lining up this little hole here. Here we go. Kind of finger tighten this one in.
Just kind of tighten it up and then get the bottom one lined up. Tighten that one up now. So we can now tighten this up a little bit more. So once again, these are torqued to 25 foot-pounds, you guys. Some people were wondering what this thing is. It's where the freeze plugs or frost plugs normally go. But in northern climates, when this was built and shipped, they put in a block heater in that space. So that's what this thing is. It's a freeze plug or frost plug replacement block heater. And it plugs in there and it warms the block to keep it warm in the wintertime. Although, obviously, this car does not go out in the wintertime. So now we have to go below and start hooking up the lines. So we're down under the car now, and these are the lines coming from the power steering pump. So I got to get those in, and that one would go in there. And we've got a small one which will go in there. And I just want to make sure they're lined up properly, and I'll get those screwed in. So over here, I'm going to put in the big one first, and then the small one. So this cap needs to come off. There we go. There we go. Got this one in hand tightened. So I've got this one in now. I've tightened it fairly snugly by hand, and that should be good enough. I don't want to over tighten this thing. And now I'm going to put in this one here. And I just want to make sure that I get it lined up kind of parallel with this one as I put it in. Okay, I'm able to get that in hand tighten. I'm going to tighten it up with the wrench now. And the same with this one. I'm going to tighten it up fairly snugly, but not over crank it. There, that should be good. So we've got the two parts from the pump going into the power steering control valve. So let's open up the little extend one and get that one installed. All right, here's the part. And like I said, it's going to simply go in here and then run down to the bottom of the power steering cylinder. So pretty straightforward, and I'm going to install that right now. Oh, and by the way, this is the plate that was on the other one, which I redid and installed, so it looks great. So let's put this one in. There's a lot of people that mix up these things for whatever reason, I don't know. Something that I would recommend, if you can put these fittings in hand tight, that way you know that you're not stripping the thread when you put it in. So if you can turn it by hand, like I can on this one here, then you can feel pretty comfortable that it's not stripping in there. So you can see how this lines up really nicely here. It's going to go in here
around and then down into the bottom here, which I need to pull this plug out here. So the bottom plug is right here. Pop that out, and I'm gonna put this in here. So now I'm under here. I just need to put this one in, and I'm thinking it needs to go up like that. There we go. So tighten this guy in. All right, so I was able to hand tighten this one in, so I'm satisfied with it's not going to get stripped. So I'm good with that. Now I'm going to put the top one on. So we're back up top now. So now this is the retract, which goes on the bottom of the power steering control valve, and it goes on the top of the power steering cylinder. So let's do that. So as mentioned before, this is the retract one, and it goes on the bottom and over and into the top. So there's the larger loop here, and let's get this one in. So you can see how it naturally lines up there to the top of the cylinder and into the bottom here. So lightly going to do this screw on the bottom, fitting. That one was super easy. And then line it up like that. So there's your classic crossover that you're looking for. And let's put that in the top there. So I'm going to take out the plug here. If I can reach it. There we go. Now we can take this line here and put it in. All right, tighten this guy down now. Yeah, that one's in place. So you can see the two lines there. They are now connected in there, and they come all the way back now to the power steering control valve. So I'm just going to finish setting that up. So back up here on the power steering control valve, I've got these lines hooked up. They're tightened fairly well, but before I do the fill and the test, I'm going to make sure that I double check all these things and align them. Right now, I'm not going to do the final fitting on them because I still have a few other adjustments to do, but in general, that's how you install the power steering hoses to the power steering control valve, the power steering cylinder, and it coming out of the power steering pump. So up here, I'm just going to make sure that these are kind of aligned nicely and zip tie them. And I'm just lightly zip tying these guys together. So here's a look at the setup here now. You've got the power steering cylinder. It's now hooked up with the right lines in the right places, going to the power steering control valve, which is hooked up to the relay rod. And we're also getting the lines that are coming in from the steering pump as well. There's one tiny bracket up here that I need to attach for the steering pump, but other than that, we're good to go. And I'll just show you the steering pump from underneath here. So looking up from the bottom, we've got that bracket for the power steering pump there. The power steering pump, there's the pulley there, is attached. We've got the lines here that are coming out, and they move over here. So those lines move over here So we're looking down the power steering cylinder and you can see the lines coming out there. So yeah, I think that's pretty good for now. And before we forget, let's put the original cap back on and replace that red one that's over there. There's the cap off, and let's put in this guy. So we finally got the lid on here, which is great, and that basically completes the install of the power steering pump. Hey, it's me, Jonathan. Thanks a lot for watching this video. So we finally got all the steering parts in, including the steering control valve and the power steering pump. So on to the next project, which I think I'm moving more forward and getting the rad core support in there and the radiator and water pump and all that type of stuff. So thanks so much for watching and sticking around. If you like these type of videos, hit the like button. Consider subscribing if you want to. It's greatly appreciated. And we'll catch you all back here next time.